Welcome everyone! Welcome to my new Geant4 tutorial series. This is actually the second version of this tutorial series, and a lot of things changed since the first time, including the version of the toolkit we're using, the Geant4 toolkit. So actually, I had a lot of people asking me to do this in English. I had such an international audience, people actually trying to use subtitles to understand Portuguese, which is my first language, and that motivated me to try to do the whole series in English this time. Let's see how it goes. So for those that don't know me, my name is Gustavo Valdivieso. I'm a professor of physics in a federal university in Brazil, the Federal University of Alpenas, and this series is very important to me because not only I use Geant4 all the time, my students do it as well. So if I can create a material that helps me teach my students, but it can also be helpful for other people, other students elsewhere, that would be great. So this is the goal with this series. So what is Geant4? Geant4 is a toolkit. What is a toolkit? A toolkit is a set of libraries. Each library has a functionality, and a toolkit is like a toolbox, right? The name says it all. It's a toolkit. And the tools in this box are the libraries that you're going to use for some function. In this case, is the simulation of the passage of particles and radiation through matter. We call this a transport simulation. What's being transported? Packages of energy in the form of particles and radiation. And the applications of this toolkit, of these kind of simulations, they range from high energy physics, space and radiation studies, and even medical physics. Geant4 includes a set of physical processes. These processes, they are represented in models, and those models can be used to simulate the whole range of physical phenomena related to the transportation of energy. So we have, of course, electromagnetic phenomena, but also for particle physics, mostly for high energy physics, we have also strong and weak interactions in matter. The toolkit itself is open source, it's very well documented, and it's validated. So every part, every library in this toolkit has been published and has been scrutinized by the community to make sure that it works. And this is an ongoing work. So you have people trying to cross-check and validate Geant4 all the time. The libraries are written in C++ and they are meant to be used in C++. Here you have two pictures. These are two simulations that I developed myself. It's the whole building and the detector for the short baseline near detector, the SPNT detector, which is a neutrino detector at Fermilab. What are the requirements for these tutorials? Okay, so first of all, you need to know a little bit of C++. You're not going to enjoy, I think that's one way of saying it, but you're not going to fully take advantage of the tutorial if you know nothing about C++. But if you know a little bit, then maybe you can use these tutorials to learn more C++. So that's a good idea. What you need is a C++ compiler. Either GCC or Clang are preferable, but if you're in Windows, you can use also Visual Studio. Yeah, the standard you need, we're going to use C++20 standard. This is already 4 years old now. We are in 2024, so it would be hard for you, unless you are on an older machine and you haven't updated it in a while. It would be hard for you to not have a compiler compatible with the C++20 standard. Of course, you also need the Geant4 itself. So the current version, while I'm recording this, is 11.2 patch 2, and you have to have it installed and configured on your system. And for these tutorials, we're going to need two optionals, two additional functionalities that are not set on by default, which is the Geometry Description Markup Language, GDML, and the Qt library. So the Qt functionalities helps us to have windows and buttons and actually develop an application for our simulation. So we'll need both of these. You may follow this tutorial today if you want to compile and build Geant4 from source. This is what we're going to do today. We're not going to tackle any examples. Well, unless at the end we're actually going to see an example, but we're not going to learn much from it except use it to test that our installation was successful. This procedure that I'm going to do today is compatible with any operating system. So in principle, you can compile from source on any operating system. It should work, but we are going to do this on an Ubuntu or Linux. Any flavor of Linux is fine. Mac OS is fine too. It's a little bit harder to do this on Windows. You have to keep in mind that the library itself was developed to be used in a Linux or Unix environment. So you can use it on Windows, but some instructions may differ. You have to take a look into the installation guide for that. But that's on you. We're going to do this on Linux. So where do we get Geant4? The website is geant4.web.cern.ch. There you will find everything, as we are going to see in a moment. Not only how to install, configure, but a whole manual, not just for understanding the library, but also if you want to be a contributor, if you want to help develop the library, you will find everything there. And we are going to do this together. This is going to be the theme of these tutorials. The hard part is always the part that we are going to do together. So this is the main page on their website. We can start by going into Get Started. Here you'll see informations regarding examples, documentations, tutorials, etc. And also how do I install Geant4. So there are a lot of instructions. Some instructions are related to some particular operating systems. And we're going to do a fresh installation from source. So let's click on Installation Guide, and we will follow this installation guide. You'll see that we didn't even download yet the toolkit. That's because we have to set up the prerequisites for the system. So the first thing to do is to go to the Geant4 system software prerequisites, and then we are going to access building and installing from source. So these are the two pages that we're going to be covering today. So right now we're going to cover all the prerequisites, everything that we need. So we need the C++ compiler, like I told you before. This is for Linux. If you're on Mac, it suggests Apple Clang. And if you are on Windows, you should use Visual Studio. Also, we need CMake, at least version 3.16. And we're going to need a few optional components as well. They are mainly related to the two optionals that I said before, the xerces library for DDML and the Qt headers and libraries for the Qt system. So these are the two optionals that we're going to need. I'm sorry, Windows and macOS fans, but I am going to cover installations on Linux. And the first thing we need to do is to install our compiler. On Ubuntu, to install not just the compiler, but several pieces of the building chain, it's quite easy actually. We just need to install the build essential package. So you can see here everything related to C++ and several other libraries, including make that's necessary for us to compile. Everything related to the compilation toolchain is going to be installed at once. Go. Now we're going to install cmake and cmake-curses-gui, which is a text version of an interface for cmake. It's not needed for the compilation process, but it helps to have Git installed as well. Now we're going to install the two libraries that are needed for our optional functionalities, the Geometry Description Markup Language, GDML, and the Qt interface. So first, for GDML, we need to install the xerces library, libxerces-c-dev. And now we need to install Qt. So if we go back to the Geant4 website, the installation guide, you have here the user interface and visualization drivers. We want this, and for that we need the Qt headers and libraries. Specifically, we need these libraries: Qt5 core, Vue, widgets, OpenGL, and also the 3D core, 3D extras, and 3D renderer. Let's see how we managed to get those through the apt installation system. I'm going to search for Qt5 core, and we can see the name of the library, and I can do the same for the others. Vue, there we go, it's this one. This one, and now the 3D ones. 3D core, there you go. 3D extras. And 3D render. Okay, so these are the libraries. Let's copy them into a single line. And now we can use a single line. If you're watching this, and now we can use a single line. If you're watching this on YouTube, I will leave these names on the description of this video for you, so you don't have to search for them. But I find it interesting to show you how I solve this problem when I have a new installation and I have to look for the name of the packages. That's how I do. Alright, we are ready. So now let's go back to the website, and we can go up and move to the source code. This is the source code page, and there are several ways to get the source code. If you have Git installed, as I just suggested a moment ago, we can clone a repository from GitHub. You can also clone it from CERN's own Git repository, which is called GitLab. You can download the files, and you can actually download a few binary releases for a few operating systems. And they're good as long as you don't need any optionals, as we do. We do need optionals. So when you need optionals, it's best if you compile it. And here are the data sets. The data sets, these are data that Geant4 needs to generate a few simulations. You don't need to worry about these because CMake is going to download them for you in a moment. So I'm going to download the smaller one. It's always the tar.gz. And while the download happens, let's go back to the installation page. So now we're back into the installation guide. We're going to build and install from source. I already installed the prerequisites, and now the next step is building and installing from source. Now, as I mentioned before, you can install directly on a few operating systems, mainly on a few types of Linux, but also on Windows. So there are ways to make this process easier on you, but you're going to miss on the optionals if you do this. So let's go to the building and installing from source, and these are the steps that we're going to follow. Here it is, already finished the downloading. I'm going to extract this into a folder. Do is on the root of my home folder. I'm going to create a specific folder for all my scientific libraries. So I'm going to you can call them libraries, or you can call them, I'm going to call them scientific, because I have libraries for other uses. And we're going to extract here. So it's extracting, and there you go. There it is. So this is the source code. Now we're going to move to the terminal, because from this point on, it's easier for us to deal with this through a terminal. So let's go to scientific. And I am actually going to make another directory here. And I'm going to move this one. I could have done this before. There you go. Now it's inside. Yeah, so that's the source code. Now we need to create 2 more. The build directory and install directory. There they are. You can give them more complete names. You can call them Geant4 version 11.2.2 install and build respectively, but it's not necessary. So we go to the build directory and we're going to call cmake. So basic use is cmake, and then the directory where the instructions are. So we have to use ... to leave this directory. When I use ... I'm back at Geant4, and now I'm going to use the name of the source directory, which is this one. But we also need a few options. So if we go back to the installation guide, so we already did these 2 steps and we are here. We need to tell the cmake build system that we are going to install Geant4 somewhere. So we're going to install it where? So we leave this folder, the build folder, and we go into the install folder. That should be it. Now, this error, this is happening. This is an error. If you're going to install this version, you must know there is an error in the installation process. So I let it happen because it's going to happen to you, and now you're going to see why. So what's going on? Geant4 uses a few external libraries, but they come bundled with the toolkit, so you don't have to download them. And one of them is this one, which is called expat. And here it's saying that it's not finding expat. It shouldn't look for it actually, because the standard is to use the one that comes with the toolkit. So how do we fix this? Well, one way is to use the cmake. So come here and add another cmake. Do this only after you ran cmake at least once. And you're going to see all the options. And here, see? It's saying use system expat. This should be off. When it's off, like the one on top, the clhack, it's going to use the expat library that came with it, that came with Geant4. So from here, you just click C to configure. You see the option down below, configure. There you go. Now you can press E to exit. And you see a whole bunch of other options are available now. And we want to turn on 2 of them. We want to turn on GDML, and we want to turn on the Qt. And also, here we have another thing. So it says install data. Install data means that it's going to download all those data files. Let's turn that on as well. And now I'm going to configure again. So just press C to reconfigure. There you go. So now you see everything that it tried to find. So it tried to find Qt find car, GUI, OpenGL, etc. But it actually didn't find the 3D core and 3D extra and 3D render. And this is something that people watching the previous version of these tutorials, people actually wrote several comments on my videos saying, oh, now I'm following your instructions and Geant4 can't find these libraries anymore. What's going on? Let's again type Q to quit. And if you want to see what this looks like without the GUI, without cmake, you can just run cmake again without cmake, and you're going to see this output. So see, it's telling us that it's going to download all the files when we do run. So it turns out that when we searched for the Qt libraries, one of them is named differently. So if I do Qt5.3d, I get those libraries that I already installed. So you can see core, extras, there are some that already came with the operating system, and here you have render. But these are the libraries. These are the binary libraries. we need the headers. We need source code for Geant4 to be compiled against. So what we actually need is a dev source. Those are the packages ending in dev, and that has a different name. So you need to look for Qt3d5 instead of 5.3d. So if you do that, you're going to see that there is this guy, and this is the one that we want. Okay, now let's cmake again. Actually, we're going to cmake and click C to reconfigure. And this time, as you can see, we have all of them. Problem solved. Again, if you're watching these on YouTube, you should see the full list of packages for Ubuntu in the description of the video, so you don't have to go through all this trouble. So just to review, these are all the packages that we need. Actually, there is one more, which is the Git. We don't really need it for compiling, but you might want to choose the Git way of downloading the source file. So here it is. And everything else that you need is in here. I am going to save this as a script file and leave a link for it on the description of this video, or you can just pause here and take note of all the names you see on the screen. Now we're going to do the compilation process. For that, just type make -j, the number of processors you have. In my case, I have 8. If you have more, you can do more. That's how fast the compilation process is going to take. I'm going to time mine, so I'll let you know by the end how long it took. And we can also say install for it to be installed after, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to leave it like this, and we can run the installation later. First, it checks for everything, and it starts to download, and you're going to see downloads written several times for every data package that it's going to be downloaded. This is going to take a while, so this might be a good time for you to go take a cup of coffee or tea. I'm going to use a task manager just so we can follow the CPUs. Every one of them is working almost to the max. You can see that we have a lot of memory to spare, so you can keep working. If you plan to keep working on your computer while it's compiling, it could be a good option to leave at least one CPU free. So instead of 8, I should have used 7. But for me, it's okay. I'm even recording this, and the recording is being done by the GPU, so no harm done. All CPUs are occupied trying to compile Geant4. Let's see how long it takes. Okay, there you go. So it took 1 hour and 3 minutes in my computer, which is a reasonably fast computer. Everything compiled nicely, no error messages. And now what we have to do is run make install. There, done, including the data files that cmake downloaded for us. Okay, so let's check that the installation is working. Let's get out of build and into install. And you can see here bin. So go into bin. And you're going to see this guy, Geant4 config. So if we run this, so /Geant4 config -- version, you're going to see that we have 11.2.2 installed. Okay, so let's close today by trying an example. That way we can be sure that our installation worked well. Whenever you want to compile anything, including the examples, you need to configure your system. You need to tell your system where the Geant4 libraries are located. And you do that by sourcing a file. So if you remember, we just visited this bin directory. It is on, let me show you. It's on install bin. See? So we use this one to see the version, and we need this one to configure the system. You only need to do this once per terminal. So every time you open a terminal, you can do this. You should only need to do this once per terminal. So let's do source install bin geant4.sh. Okay, that's it. Now we're going to go find some tutorials. So again, if we take a look at the directories, we can go into the source directory, the one we downloaded, right? And in here, you're going to see examples. There are basic, advanced, and extended examples. And we're going to try one of the basic ones. So go into basic. And we're actually going to try the last one because I know this one uses the Qt library, which is the one that gave us the most trouble to find all the dependencies. So if this one works, everything else should work. Let's do that. Go into the B5 directory, and here you're going to see the source code. So ideally, you should create a different directory for this. But just for the examples, it doesn't hurt to make it inside. So make dir build, go into build, and now you cmake ... so we can execute cmake on that directory, the one containing the source file. You shouldn't see any errors at this stage. And now you just make and then -j and the number of cores you have. This should be pretty fast. There you go. Okay, so now we're inside build, and you should see this executable. Let's just type ./example5. And if we get no errors, there you go. So this window is generated by the Qt library. Here you can see whatever it is, this experiment. You can control if you're going to see solids, with or without lines around it. Here you can see the whole scene, so you can see all the elements of this detector. And if you hit play, we should see some particles. There you go. This tells me that our installation worked. If you got to this part, it means everything is done. You have Geant4 configured on your system, and I hope to see you back for the actual tutorial number 1. Don't forget to let me know if you have any problems and any questions in the comment section of this video. See you next time!